Hello, back for part 2 of chapter 22. Footsteps passed their cabin and Laura steeled herself. Very shortly they would learn their fate, but the corridor went quiet again, and soon she could hear nothing but the waves slapping the bottom of the boat. She asked how much of what Mrs. Mukhtar promised you actually happened. He shrugged. Some. In the quarry. I lay on hay and a ragged blanket. I'd eaten food that pigs would not touch if they were starving. I'd work 14 hours days, sometimes longer. Here I slept on a mattress in a storeroom and ate dal or curry and rice. Compared to my old life, it was a luxury. But in the quarry, I'd had many friends. Here, I was alone. The tapestries were more popular than the Mukhtars anticipated. Along with cleaning their apartment and minding the stores, I often had to work 20-hour days to keep up with demand. Laura felt ill. It was painful to discover that the whole time she'd been visiting Tariq and feeling overjoyed to have made a friend, he'd been a prisoner, worked to the bone. He'd not received 1 penny for his labours, not so much as an ice cream, because the Mukhtars had told him he owed them thousands of pounds for paying off his family's debt, for flying him from Bangladesh to Cornwall, and for his rent and food. And yet you still found time to make me a tiger. Laura had a lump in her throat. I love it, by the way. It's exquisite. Tariq's weary face creased into a smile. Did you find it? Mrs. Webb told the Mukhtars she'd thrown it into the gutter. They were livid with me, but it was the least I could do to say sorry. Your friendship meant the world to me, and when they forced me to hurt you, it was torture. I had to do something to make amends. So many times I was tempted to tell you my secret, but I was afraid to trust you. Plus the Mukhtars had told me that if I let slip to anyone what was going on, they knew people who could make us both disappear. It was on the tip of Laura's tongue to say that the Mukhtars' threat might be about to come true, but she thought better of it. I wish you had trusted me. So do I, but my secret had been sealed in my heart for so long it had become a habit. The secret of your slavery? Tariq flexed his wrists to try to restore the circulation in his hands. No, the secret of my education. Do you remember me telling you that my great-grandfather was a teacher, and that my grandfather considered himself to have bright prospects before he borrowed the 75 cents from the quarry owner? Yes. Well, my grandfather knew that education was the only way he or his family would ever escape from debt bondage. He also knew that it had to be hidden from the quarry owner or it would be exploited, just as in the later years the quarry owner's son exploited my mum's tapestry skills. At night, in secret, my grandfather taught my father to read, write, do sums and speak English, and my father did the same to me. When I came to live with the Mukhtars, I realised straight away that my education would either save me or get me killed. I had to keep it secret until I learned enough about your country to try to figure out how to escape. I spent hours reading the newspapers while I was minding the store. Through them, I learnt that millions of people are free, and I can be one of them. But I couldn't do it on my own. I needed help. So you came up with the idea of putting messages in a bottle? It seemed the easiest and safest way to get a letter to you. I knew you liked to walk to school along the Porthmeon beach and the island path. All I had to do was to put the bottle in a place where only you would see it. It took a few days to get it right, but finally I managed it. When you wrote back to me and said I could trust you, I was nearly insane with joy. But I took too many chances, and after Mrs. Webb told the Mukhtars about the tiger tapestry, they became increasingly suspicious. They were paranoid that it would somehow get out that their supposed son was a slave. A couple of times they had me followed. Yesterday morning, when I saw you with your wolf dog, I decided to tell you the truth. I was waiting outside your school when a muscle man dragged me into a car. He's called the Monk. I tried to yell to you, but he drugged me with something. Laura, this gang, the Straight A's, they're evil. There was a commotion in the corridor outside, and Tariq fell silent. The smell of the cabin, a combination of dried salt, stale sweat and mildew, had got into Laura's throat. She'd have braved a school of piranhas for a single glass of water. Her skin had stopped burning, but her head throbbed. The voices died down again. The only sounds were the creaking of the wood and the dull roar of the sea. How are the Mukhtars mixed up in this? She asked. Why are they working with the Straight A gang? The Mukhtars became friendly with the Straight A's when they were trying to obtain a false passport so I could come to the United Kingdom. That's what I heard the monk saying to Mrs. Webb after they snatched me yesterday. Mrs. Webb? Cried Laura. I knew it. She's pretty frightening. I don't know how you lived with her as a housekeeper. Anyhow, I think the reason they started working together is that the Mukhtars are bankrupt. They have big debts because both of them are always shopping and going on holiday. The bank was always sending them red letters saying that they were going to repossess the North Star if they didn't pay up. I'm guessing that they got talking to the Straight A's about how they could team up and make a huge amount of money. Doing what? I'm not sure, but they're waiting for something big to come from Bangladesh. Some massive delivery. Maybe it's drugs or guns. The Mukhtars have been talking about it in coded language for weeks. 2 days ago, I heard the details I put in the invisible letter. 20 units, Dead Man's Cove, and LAT, whatever that means. I thought your uncle might be able to help. Once I overheard the Mukhtars discussing him, saying he was the most dangerous man in Britain. Laura snorted. To criminals, maybe. I figured that out because they said they'd been told that he was at the top of his game. There was no one in the police force who could touch him. A week ago, I heard Mrs. Webb telling the Mukhtars that trying to find out information on him was like trying to prize secrets from a sphinx. I was going to warn you about her if I ever got to speak to you again, but now it's too late. There were shouts and the thud of boots running on wood. A key rattled in the lock. A wave of pure terror ripped through Laura. The gaunt kidnapper, who she was fairly sure had used chloroform to knock her out, came in. He had white hair, black eyebrows, a slack jaw, and the flat, eyeless, lifeless eyes of a cod. His gaze roamed the cabin restlessly. He'd swapped the pizza-perfect uniform for a black jacket and dark grey trousers with a sharp crease. "Ah, Laura, good to see you're awake," he said in a bright tone that contrasted oddly with his colourless appearance. "Wouldn't want you to sleep through all the action. Regretfully, we had to give you something to calm you down. But you had the minimum dose and will feel all right in no time." "Who are you?" demanded Laura, her fear giving way to fury. "What do you want from us?" The cod eyes fixed on her. "Rumblefish is my name, and as to what we want from you, all will be revealed in good time." With a boldness that she didn't feel, Laura said, "My uncle is one of the best detectives in the world. When he finds you, you'll be spending many years in jail reflecting on the massive mistake you made keeping Tariq and me hostage." Rumblefish raised a black eyebrow. "Laura, you are to be applauded for your misplaced faith in former Chief Inspector Redfern. Perhaps he failed to mention that the straight A's have a reputation for excellence of a different kind. Rest assured that by the time we've finished with you and Tariq, you'll be gone without a trace. Your beloved uncle will not find one hair on your heads if he walks from here to China." He kicked the door open. "On that cheerful note, shall we go?" And that's the end. You'll have to find out more in chapter 23.